Thank you for joining us today. With me in this studio is Dr. Hartmut Meyer, one of the region heads here at Oxford Analytica, here with me to discuss the Euro crisis and the latest developments in Berlin, where UK Prime Minister David Cameron is on his way to talk to Chancellor Angela Merkel. Now, Hartmut, what are they going to be talking about, and what is Angela Merkel's perspective?
Well, obviously they will talk about the immediate crisis management, and we have had this European crisis for 2 years, but this week we are focused very much on the concrete situation in Spain. We have the bond auction in Spain, we have the declaration that money is needed, and we have a rather lukewarm so far response from Berlin. And David Cameron is trying to, and other leaders are doing that as well, trying to do more than what we have done so far and put pressure on the German government to release funds to support the Spanish banking system. The question arises whether the support, and I can say very strongly the Germans are committed to provide the support that is needed to stabilize the situation in Spain, as they were committed to do it in Portugal, in Ireland and in Greece. But the criticism has always been too little too late. And I think we are facing for the first time a situation where the Germans realize this has to be a big solution now, even though there is still disagreement how to do it. And the major disagreement is whether the money goes straight into the banking sector or whether it's channeled through the European Stability Facility, as was the case in Ireland, Portugal, and in Greece. And that's the German preference.
Right. Now, we are seeing the next 2 weeks as being the absolute crucial 2 weeks ahead of the EU summit, which will conclude the month of June. And we're expecting to find out data on the disaster really in the Spanish banking sector. And we've also got elections in Greece on June 17 and French legislative elections on June 17. So what will Merkel's perspective on those events be?
Yes. And we have more pressure than ever before. We had this, it's too late now rhetoric in December. This time, I think we have a serious crisis, and if we don't react quickly now with the right force and the right instruments, I think we will see a much larger crisis than anyone could have expected a long time ago. I think it's very important to understand that the silence in recent weeks from the Germans was motivated by letting these three events, reaction to the Spanish crisis, the French and the Greek elections, happen while not influencing it from outside. Behind the scenes, there has been a lot of preparation to come up with concrete plans for the summit. Ideally, this will be discussed and presented in its basics at the G20 summit on the 18th and 19th of June, and then give the international community, but also the domestic audiences and the leaders, time for 10 days to talk about the details and discuss it. But the general plan will have 4 basic pillars. One is the fiscal union that we are already aware of. The second proposal is on a banking union, which means more European oversight, but also compulsory support system among the European banks that they bail each other out if one is in trouble. And there will be, and that's a very controversial one in the meeting between David Cameron and Angela Merkel today, is about a financial transaction tax, which from a German domestic perspective might be a precondition for establishing the banking union. Then there will be a growth initiative in one form or the other, and then there will be a confirmation and reaffirmation of structural reforms in certain domestic contexts in the European Union. And these 4 pillars of a comprehensive solution will then accommodate it with a commitment to give as much money as it is needed in order to erect the firewalls for Spain. The real problem is that in each of these 4 pillars, there's so much dynamite. There's so little domestic support for these individual measures that the real challenge will be to find a solution which is not the full program, but introduces elements of the program and then committing the money.
Now, what happens if we get to the end of June and we're all ready to have this summit with its 4 pillars, and Greece elects a government that decides to tear up the bailout agreement, or Spain turns to the markets and says, we need a much bigger bailout than you've been thinking about? What happens then?
Then we are in totally different territory, because so far we were buying time for the grand solution. This will show the grand solution is not even feasible. And then there will be a dynamic which is very, very hard to predict. If it is Greece only, and we are confident that we can control the Spanish problem, then we are still in waters which are less troublesome than the alternative. I cannot predict what the alternative will be, and I don't want to speculate on crisis scenarios, but for the first time in this crisis, I'm getting really worried. I wasn't panicking for the last 2 years. If these two incidences, Greece and Spain, will happen, then we need a lot of collective effort, and whether the leadership, the political leadership and the financial means are there to rescue the project, I'm not so sure, but I still hope that we will be able to manage it.
So, 2 weeks to a Euro area showdown. Thank you very much, Dr. Hartmut-Meyer, for joining us today. And thank you. If you have any other further questions or ways that we can help you to understand the Euro crisis or any other global affairs, please check out our website.